The law office was silent except for the soft whir of the air conditioning as Mr. Peterson, my parents' attorney, cleared his throat and adjusted his reading glasses. I sat straight-backed in the leather chair, hands folded in my lap, while my brother James lounged beside me with the casual arrogance he perfected over the years. And to our son, James Michael Crawford, Mr. Peterson read from our parents' will, "We leave our entire estate, including all properties, investments, and liquid assets, valued at approximately $12 million. James's smirk widened as Mr. Peterson continued. To our daughter Emma, we leave nothing. She has consistently proven herself unworthy of the Crawford legacy. As a woman, she lacks the business acumen and leadership qualities necessary to steward our family's wealth." The words hung in the air like poison. I felt James's eyes on me, waiting for me to crack, to show some sign that our parents' final rejection had broken me. But I remained perfectly still, my face a mask of calm. "Is that all?" I asked quietly when Mr. Peterson finished reading. The lawyer nodded, looking uncomfortable. "Yes, Miss Crawford. I'm sorry, but that's everything." "Very well." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Thank you for your time." "That's it," James called as I headed for the door. "No tears? No begging? Come on, sis, where's the drama?" I turned back to face him, allowing myself a small smile. "No drama, James. Just congratulations on your inheritance." His confident expression faltered slightly at my composure. He'd expected tears, rage, perhaps even a legal challenge to the will. Instead, he got serenity he couldn't quite understand. What my brother didn't know, what my parents never knew, was that I'd stopped counting on their approval or their money long ago. While they were busy grooming James to take over the family business, I'd been building something of my own. My name is Emma Crawford, and this is the story of how I turned my family's rejection into the greatest motivation of my life. 10 years earlier, I sat in my father's study, hands trembling as I presented my business proposal. At 22, fresh out of business school with honors, I believed I could convince him to give me a chance. "A tech startup?" he scoffed, barely glancing at the carefully prepared documents. "Emma, be realistic. The tech world is no place for a woman. Besides, James will be taking over Crawford Industries when the time comes." "Dad, please just look at the projections," I pleaded. "The market research shows." "Enough." He slammed his hand on the desk. "I won't waste family money on your little hobby. If you want to play at being a businesswoman, do it with your own resources." I walked out of his study that day with tears burning in my eyes, but determination burning in my heart. Fine. He wanted me to use my own resources. I would. I took the small inheritance from my grandmother, the only family member who'd ever believed in me, and poured it into my dream. $20,000. It wasn't much compared to the Crawford millions, but it was enough to start. I rented a tiny office space, barely more than a closet, in a rundown building on the edge of the tech district. During the day, I worked as a junior analyst at a consulting firm, learning everything I could about the industry. At night, I built my company. The first year was brutal. I lived on ramen noodles and coffee, working 18-hour days, sleeping on a futon in my office more often than in my own bed. My parents never asked what I was doing. They were too busy celebrating James's promotion to vice president at Crawford Industries. But slowly, steadily, my hard work began to pay off. My software platform, designed to revolutionize supply chain management through AI integration, caught the attention of a small group of investors. The first round of funding brought in $500,000. I hired my first employees, brilliant minds who cared more about innovation than gender. We expanded to a real office, still modest, but with actual windows this time. Every small victory felt enormous because I'd earned it entirely on my own. 3 years in, we landed our first major client. I still remember standing in that corporate boardroom, presenting my platform to their executive team. I was the only woman in the room, but I owned that space. When they signed the contract, a deal worth $2 million. I didn't call my parents to share the news. They wouldn't have cared anyway. James, meanwhile, was running Crawford Industries into the ground. He had our father's arrogance but none of his business sense. I watched from afar as he made one poor decision after another, burning through millions with failed ventures and risky investments. "Your brother's just finding his footing," my mother would say at the rare family dinners I attended. "He has such grand visions for the company's future." I'd nod and say nothing, even as I read industry reports about Crawford Industries' declining market share. It wasn't my concern anymore. I had my own empire to build. By year 5, my company, Phoenix Tech Solutions, had grown to over 100 employees. We'd moved to sleek offices in the heart of downtown, and our client list included some of the biggest names in manufacturing and distribution. I never flaunted my success. I kept a low profile, reinvesting profits into research and development, expanding our services, and taking care of my team. While James made headlines with his extravagant parties and failed business ventures, I built something sustainable. The irony wasn't lost on me. Everything my parents claimed I couldn't do: lead a company, make strategic decisions, earn respect in the business world, I was doing successfully. But they never noticed, too blinded by their own prejudices and James' empty promises. When our mother fell ill last year, I tried one last time to bridge the gap. I visited her in the hospital, bringing flowers and genuine hope for reconciliation. "Mom," I said softly, sitting beside her bed, "I want you to know that despite everything, I've built a good life. A successful one. I think you'd be proud if you knew." "Emma," she interrupted, her voice weak but sharp, "let's not pretend. James is the one carrying on the Crawford legacy. You're just my daughter." Those words, "just my daughter," they should have hurt. But sitting in Mr. Peterson's office today, hearing them echoed in my parents' will, I felt nothing but peace. They'd given me the greatest gift possible, the motivation to succeed entirely on my own terms. As I walked out of the law office that morning, my phone buzzed with a notification. Our latest acquisition had just been approved. A deal that would take Phoenix Tech Solutions international. The purchase price? $15 million, all funded through our own revenue and strategic investments. I smiled as I stepped into the sunshine. Let James have his inherited millions. I built something far more valuable, a legacy of my own. 2 weeks after the will reading, I was in my office reviewing quarterly projections when my assistant buzzed through. "Ms. Crawford, your brother is here. He's insisting on seeing you." I took a deep breath, straightening the papers on my desk. "Send him in, Rachel." James burst through the door moments later, his normally impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. He stopped short, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The modern decor, the view of downtown that money couldn't buy anymore, because I owned the building. "What is this?" he demanded, gesturing around him. "Since when do you have an office like this?" "Since I bought the building 3 years ago," I replied calmly. "What can I do for you, James?" He ran a hand through his hair, his confidence visibly shaken. You bought this building, the entire Crawford Tech Tower." "We rebranded it Phoenix Tower after the purchase," I said, allowing myself a small smile. "But yes, the whole building, along with 3 others in the tech district." "That's impossible," he sputtered. "You didn't have that kind of money. Mom and Dad didn't give you anything." "You're right," I agreed, standing up to pour myself a glass of water. "They didn't give me anything. I built this myself, every single piece of it." "How?" The word came out almost as a whisper. I turned to face him, really looking at my brother for the first time in years. He seemed smaller somehow, less certain of his place in the world. "I did exactly what they said I couldn't do. I started a company, grew it, and turned it into something significant. Phoenix Tech Solutions now has offices in 5 countries. James, we're projecting revenue of over $100 million this year." He sank into one of the chairs facing my desk, his face pale. $100 million? But Crawford Industries is struggling. I finished for him. "I know. That's actually why I assumed you were here." James looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" I sat back down, folding my hands on my desk. "The industry's been talking. Crawford Industries is on the verge of bankruptcy, isn't it? Dad's inheritance won't be enough to save it." "How did you know?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Because I pay attention," I said simply. "I watch the markets, analyze trends, make informed decisions. Everything Dad tried to teach you, but you were too busy enjoying the perks of being the chosen son to learn." Tears welled in his eyes, something I hadn't seen since we were children. "I need help, Emma. The company, Dad's legacy, it's all falling apart. I don't know what to do." For a moment, I said nothing. I thought about all the times I'd been dismissed, belittled, told I wasn't worthy of the Crawford name. It would be so easy to turn him away, to let him fail spectacularly. Why should I help you? I asked finally. You stood there in that law office, smirking while they read those horrible words about me. You've never once stood up for me or acknowledged my capabilities. I know, he whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. I was wrong. We were all wrong about you. I studied him carefully. An apology isn't enough, James. Not after everything. Then what do you want? He asked desperately. Name your price. Whatever it takes to save the company. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city I'd helped shape. I don't want your money, James. I want control. If I help save Crawford Industries, it becomes part of Phoenix Tech Solutions. Complete merger with me as CEO. But it's my inheritance, he protested weakly. I turned back to face him. Your inheritance is worthless if the company goes bankrupt. I'm offering you a chance to save Dad's legacy, but on my terms. You can stay on as a VP if you're willing to actually learn the business. But I call the shots. You really think you can save it? I know I can, I said confidently. I've been tracking Crawford Industries' mistakes for years, watching you run it into the ground. I already have a turnaround strategy mapped out. James was quiet for a long moment, probably experiencing for the first time what it felt like to be powerless, to need someone else's help. Finally, he nodded. Okay, you win, Emma. The company's yours. No, I corrected him. I won a long time ago, when I decided to build something for myself instead of waiting for scraps from our parents' table. This isn't about winning anymore. It's about fixing what's broken in the company and maybe even in our family. The merger paperwork was signed the following week. The press had a field day with the story. Daughter excluded from family fortune ends up buying failing family business. But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about the work. I threw myself into revitalizing Crawford Industries, integrating it with Phoenix Tech's innovative systems. James, to his credit, seemed genuinely willing to learn. For the first time in our lives, we were actually working together instead of competing. 6 months later, I stood in my parents' old office, now my office, looking at their photographs on the wall. I kept them there as a reminder, not of their rejection, but of the fire it lit inside me. Miss Crawford? Rachel appeared in the doorway. The board meeting is about to start. They're waiting for you. I nodded, gathering my papers. The quarterly reports showed Crawford Phoenix's strongest performance in a decade. We'd not only stopped the bleeding but had turned the company around completely. As I walked into the boardroom, every head turned to me with respect. Not because I was Howard Crawford's daughter, but because I was Emma Crawford, the CEO who had built an empire from scratch and saved a legacy company from destruction. James was already seated at the table. He gave me a small nod as I took my place at the head of the table. In his eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before, genuine admiration. Good morning, everyone. I began, my voice strong and clear. Let's talk about the future. Later that evening, as I was preparing to leave the office, I found an envelope on my desk. Inside was a letter from James. Emma, I know it's too late to undo the past, but I want you to know how sorry I am for my part in it. You've shown me what real leadership looks like, what it means to earn success rather than inherit it. Mom and Dad were wrong about you, wrong about so many things. I'm proud to be your brother, and even prouder to be learning from you now. Asterisk James. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Then I gathered my things and headed for the elevator, my heels clicking against the marble floors of the building that now housed both Phoenix Tech Solutions and Crawford Industries, or as the new sign outside read, Crawford Phoenix Global Technologies. As I stepped out into the evening air, I thought about legacy. My parents had been so focused on preserving theirs that they never saw the potential right in front of them. They thought being just a daughter made me weak, made me less. Instead, it made me unstoppable. The city lights twinkled around me as I walked to my car. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to prove that success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you build for yourself. And I had built something extraordinary.